Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Reverend Dr. Wayne M. Weathers greeting you today on Conversation Unplugged on two radio stations, WWDB 860 AM as well as 1100 AM in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to make an announcement today. I will be back on the air on Spiritual Connect Radio at 5 o'clock p.m., www.spiritualconnectradio.com. Looking to go in different directions. Since I've been at 860 AM, we've been doing, shows that focused on politics, and I'm not void from politics or anything like that, but I did not want our show just to be solely based on politics. So I've been doing just some praying and some meditation and some evaluation and things of that nature, and I came up with a very interesting subject for both shows. So when I say both shows, the show at 1 o'clock as well as the show at 5 o'clock. So for today, we're starting a show series. First ever time ever I've been on the air, we're starting a show series. And in this show series, it's entitled Being Black in America, Part 1. And then at 5 o'clock, I just confirmed my guest, my college buddy, Darren Johnson. We're going to really unplug a subject entitled Loneliness in Ministry. Amen. So we're really going to tackle some great subjects today. Today I have my brother in Christ out of Clairton, PA, Pastor Richard White. For those who are watching us for the first time or listening to us for the first time, just do us an introduction about yourself, and then we take it from there.
Good, man. It's good to hear your voice. Good to speak and talk to you. I am Reverend Richard White, the pastor of the Morning Star Baptist Church in Clairton, PA. Married to one wife, 3 children. Love the Lord. Been pastoring for literally for 10 years, and it's my first year here at Morning Star in Clairton. Member of the Pennsylvania Baptist State Convention, our local AEBA association, a number of things. But I'm a child of God. Glad to be here.
Great. So let's really get into the backdrop of this subject that, I've been led to start this series, being black in America. One person said to me, Pastor White, says it's great that you have a radio show because you are in a position to be able to provide a voice in the radio or through the radio airwaves about issues that affect the African American community. And I thought that was a great compliment. And so as I am literally praying about what to discuss, and I was vacillating between one subject and another, one subject and of another, and another, not of another, then I get hit with a situation on Saturday. And I really want to share this little long narrative, and then we're really going to get into being black in America, threatened by Karens. So, and we're going to talk about what this stereotype or this word Karen means, all right, for my listeners. So, Saturday, Pastor White, I'm on my way. I just had a great meeting with the Pennsylvania Eastern Keystone Baptist Association where I serve as the moderator. It was it was a great meeting. And then, I'm on my way, to, let me fix my camera for my Facebook Live folks that doesn't have my video camera here. But I'm on my way to the Verizon shop, right? It's a Verizon shop near, in Berlin. And so as I'm at the Verizon shop, as I'm at the Verizon shop and everything, that's better. As I'm at the Verizon shop, I'm turning in I'm at the shopping center going to Verizon. I'm turning in to park in a parking space, and I have a luxury car. I have I'm blessed to have a Lincoln, and so as I'm turning and everything, I had the right of way, And this woman who happened to be Caucasian, she pulls up and she start giving me mouth. Like I'm trying to figure out what is her problem. You got me? What is a
Yes,
problem?
sir.
So as she's mouthing off at me, I'm like, yo, I have the right of way. What are you talking about here? I'm in my car. And then she flips me the middle finger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just went ballistic. So now I'm angry. I'm giving it to her now. Didn't cuss, but I'm giving it to her now. I'm giving it to her. And so I'm really giving it to her because as a black man to get that in this climate that we're in as we're coming out of this insurrection, this Trumpism, et cetera, it was the middle finger, but we know what the undertone behind that middle finger was. You got me?
Absolutely.
And so now, as I'm giving it to her, I'm in the car, I'm just irate now. She pulls out her weapon. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she pulls out her weapon. And some people would think, oh, she pulled out a gun on you? No, she didn't pull out a gun. She pulled out her cell phone.
Okay.
Like to say, like she started it,
Right.
gave me the middle finger, but the middle finger really wasn't the middle finger. You got me? It's the unspoken. To me, the middle finger was an off branch of the N word. You
Right.
got me? It's the off branch of the N word. And then we have the absolutisms. Whether she didn't call you the N word, you can't say it was the N word. But I need to tell folks who are listening to us right now, you have to understand the African American experience here in America to understand the unspokens that are spoken right in front of you and how it creates this climate and this turmoil and this dehumanization. And for me to be an individual, right, who's driving in a car, minding my own business, just want to return some equipment back to Verizon, right, and go home and go about my business and work on my sermon and get my mind set for Sunday. Then all of a sudden, Karen shows up in a car, right, and flips me the middle finger. And she wasn't really flipping me the middle finger. That's just an off branch of calling me the N word. So let's talk about this,
And
because,
look at you.
yes, go ahead.
Look at you. First of all, the person who sent you that message, yes, thank God for your radio station because it is a blessing. It's an outlet for those who are able to really express what their experience is. So I'll commend you greatly in regards to what God has done in your life and how He has allowed you to be a platform base for so many to be able to express and expound their life works. Second, I want to say this. I don't believe that we have come out of Trumpism. I think we're still
No,
in it.
we are.
Because the reality is that racism still is alive and well. And the only thing that Trumpism did was stoke the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it just added hot coals and just made sure that the fire was still burning from 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 years ago. As long as we are perceived, and I say we as African Americans, we are still perceived as nothing but animals. We're
Yes.
looked upon as being savages. We're looked upon as being a threat to them, and nothing better than to fix their cars, fix their air conditioner, do domestic work, and pack their homes, and only as a workhorse. Then the respect that we should have, the respect that we demand, will never be there because the mindset across the table is not there. The
Right.
reality becomes this: if we didn't have cell phones, and I thank God for them, now she's only going to show one side, showing you the aggressor,
Right.
but
Right.
never take out to show the whole story. And God forbid if she could call the police. You're standing there, literally having to fight for your life to explain that you are who you are, that you didn't steal this car, you're paying for yourself, but you like story. This is white privilege. Respectfully, white privilege is that because I'm white, I can do whatever I want to do. I can do it when I want to do it, and I can do it however I want to do it. And because your skin tone is not my skin tone, you're beneath me. And that's the mindset that we live in. And we have, I call Karen and thieves. We
Hmm.
have women and we have men who are doing the same thing. They are our counterparts. And yet, we just came out of our 28 days of Black History Month. And they're glad we're done with it. I'm serious. If you would listen to the undertow, because what you just said, her giving you the finger, that was the undertow
Yes.
of literally saying you are less than.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, we have laws on the books for years saying that we are less than. And because of that, because it's been taught for years, it's been ingrained in the mindset of our counterparts. The question comes down to how are we going to ever be able to build a bridge when we can't control what's being taught at home?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got this message that I need to. Yeah, I just got this message. It's it's how can I put it? How can I put it? You just said something that was a mouthful. You just said something that was a mouthful, and I wanna. Um, yeah, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
We just let's do this. Let's go to a station break right now because I really want to come back. So we're going to go to a 1 minute station break on Conversation Unplugged. All right? It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool, and there's the photo booth. All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese! Followed naturally by an order of wings, and another. Can we get some extra ranch sauce? Then there's the ceremonial nightcap. So what are we doing this weekend? And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
At any given moment, somewhere in America, a baby is taking a first step, a developmental milestone. But for too many parents, a baby's first steps aren't just a milestone, they're a miracle. These are the parents of babies who were born prematurely or with birth defects. It's a crisis affecting more than 500,000 babies in the United States each year. You can help them by joining volunteers like you who walk and march for babies. The money you raise funds research.
We're back on Conversation Unplugged on WWDB 860 AM. Wow, I just got a call. I serve as political action chair of black clergy in Philadelphia and vicinity, and there was an interview that was going on that I had to let the president of the committee know that I could not make it because I was on the air. So sorry for the brief, station break. Now, Pastor White, you said something here, and I really want to bring this out even further. So now, like after I have the encounter with Karen, right? So now I'm literally in Verizon, and so now I'm preparing. You got me? I'm Reverend Dr. Wayne and Weathers, but see, with her, she don't even know the Reverend, the doctor. She don't even know the radio show or anything like that. So now I'm literally in Verizon and I'm preparing. And I want to share with my listeners here, if you're not African American, because we have a very diverse audience, I want to share with you, just take you through what an African American has to go through. And we're not victims in America, and I refuse to embrace that title. We are victims. We are not victims. We've overcome, even in situations when we didn't even have the resources to overcome. We built HBCUs, in the midst of segregation, as post-slavery. We built our own banks. You know what I mean? We started our own businesses. And even when they destroyed our communities, and what I mean by destroyed our communities, either they burned it down, like Rosewood in Florida, or various other communities, or when we had our thriving communities like Black Wall Street in North Carolina, and then what happens, you take a highway and you run it through an African American neighborhood to try, not try, to dismantle it and destroy it, and even from the ashes, we still rise again. We still rise. So this isn't victimhood here. So now let me take you back. Let me take you back because I want to share. I want to be more well, not more transparent, but slightly transparent here. I want to take you back. So now I'm standing in Verizon, right? I'm standing in Verizon, and so now I'm preparing for law. You know, what am I going to do
Right.
when the cops come?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like every 2 or 3 minutes now, I got to look out the window. Because, see, Karen showed her cell phone. You got me?
Yes,
Karen
sir.
showed her cell phone. And so when Karen showed her cell phone, right, now I'm preparing because, see, law is really not on my side. You got me? It's really not on my side. It's normally on Karen's side. And the backdrop is I'm not in a predominantly African American community and I'm not in a predominantly African American shopping center. You got me? So I'm in an area where I'm definitely a minority, the minority of minority. You got me? And so now I'm standing there, I'm bracing myself because I said if the police show up, they're not gonna want to hear reverend, they're not gonna want to hear doctor, they don't want to hear
Nope.
about the 3 degrees, they don't want to hear about all the work, the positive work I've done in Philadelphia and throughout the state of Pennsylvania. I am literally standing and rising and I'm bracing myself. I have my game face on because I said pretty soon the cops are going to show up because Karen pulled out her cell phone after she
Yes,
flipped
sir.
me the finger and inadvertently, she didn't say it with her lips, but by flipping me the finger, she dehumanized me and basically in a nonverbal way called me the N-word. And then they want to know why we angry.
Oh, you're an angry black male,
Right,
and
yeah,
with a chip on your shoulder, and
right.
nothing's ever right, and you look mean all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because you actually state your purpose, and you actually, with authority, are able to articulate, and because of that, because you're not an ignorant African American male, you're deemed to be an angry black male. Thus, whatever happens to you, you deserve it.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Literally, that's the mindset. That is the mindset, respectfully, that we fight every day in America. And I'm not trying to be chauvinistic, but I'll call it what it is. Um, an African American male has really a hard time dealing with our counterparts because we're a male and we're seen as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, you're right. When the police come, not only do they not listen, they don't care
Right.
that you're reverend. They don't care because to them it's a minstrel. They see no seriousness. They don't care about the degree. That doesn't mean a hill of beans to them. All they see is a black male in a white neighborhood driving a nice car, and this white woman feels threatened for her life all of a sudden.
And the Karens didn't start. You know, they
No,
no, it didn't just start.
no, they're
No,
being taped.
exactly. It didn't. It did not just start. We could say Karen traces back to Emmett Till's situation,
Absolutely, absolutely.
where now, and check this out, Karen can say this black teenager spoke to me in a manner that was disrespectful and whose life was viciously taken. But
Absolutely.
then when evidence comes out, when Karen now, who was in her, I say 20s, that's estimation, who is now maybe in her late 80s, and
She
then
is.
confesses that she
Nothing happened.
lied. She lied,
Nothing happened.
and nothing happened.
Nothing
And
happened.
and check this
Yeah,
out,
nothing.
and nothing happened to Emmett Till, and not, I mean, nothing happened to her with that, with the lie that was said about Emmett Till, and you're right, nothing happened. She was never
Nothing.
not
Nothing.
apprehended, not even
Mm-hmm.
criminally prosecuted for telling a lie that led to the death of Emmett Till.
Because remember, she lives now in either North or South Carolina, and when she was interviewed, literally nothing happened. And so when we look at those prominent people, because if Emmett Till had never been killed with a box fan up around his neck, with thrown inside the river, and if his mother had never shown his body,
Right.
then he would have been nothing more than another African American male who was killed in Deep South, brought back, put inside there, and oh, it's a shame. That's about it. Because she showed his disfigured body in Chicago, that's what people say this isn't right. The problem that we deal with is we had Medgar Evers who was killed, and
Right.
they exhumed his body, thank God, and that gentleman went to jail. But I don't understand, nor can anyone explain to us yet, why in the world this lady who made this claim and this young man's life was snuffed out at the hands of her family and people who they knew, literally nothing happened. She gave an interview. She blatantly, in her right sound mind, said this was really happened, and he did not do it. And she was able to go back inside of her house and watch television with no interest whatsoever. But yet we have African American men and women who, when they walk into your house, those who were called to protect and serve, and they come to the wrong house. And we have with George Floyd, respectfully, who lost his life um, at the hands of a corner store. And I don't care what anyone says, we still don't have the whole story about what transpired in that grocery store. Um,
Right.
there are so many countless others, Philando Castro, all these African American men and women who, at the hands of a counterpart, a white counterpart, who we're taught as African Americans to get along, to make peace. The rules are not the same.
Now, Reverend Dr. Sherry Jones says it is a verbal lynching, and she agrees. So that was one of the
Absolutely.
comments. It's a verbal lynching. And for those who are watching me on Facebook Live, if it went dark, for some strange reason, my HD camera to my computer projects a more darker view instead of bringing in a more lighter view backdrop, that is. So it looks very dark when I use my HD camera with my computer. So please forgive me for this quick 30-second blackout and everything. Yeah, it's crazy here. Not crazy here per se. Let me restate that. Just the experiences in America. Now, there's an article that came up probably a year or two ago in Time magazine, and it says when you look up the hashtag Karen on Instagram, a search yields over 773,000 posts. The featured image on the page is a screenshot of a white woman staring intensely into the camera, pursuing her lips into a smile as she touches a finger to her chin, a movement that's at once condescending and cloying. It goes on to say the woman's name is Lisa Alexander, but on the internet she's most recognized as the San Francisco Karen, after a clip went viral of her last week in which she demands to know if James Juliano, who was stenciling Black Lives Matter in chalk on the front of his own home, was defacing private property. The video showed Juliano, who identified himself in a social media caption as a person of color, telling Alexander and her partner that they should call the police if they felt he was breaking the law. He later told ABC News that the couple called the police, who he says recognized him as the resident instantly. And while the person was fortunate to have been recognized and unharmed, calls like this could result in injury or worse, death.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think about that incident. I think about that incident Saturday, and it's sad. I literally had to brace myself. Now, let me give the scenario again. I'm pulling, I'm turning my car, into a particular, I had the right of way, and I guess she felt I was taking up too much space, which I wasn't. I mean, you're turning the car, and I'm trying to figure out why is she mouthing. I'm telling her, I've got my windows up. I got the right of way. What's the problem? And as I'm sharing with her, I got the right of way, and I was irate because she's mouthing, and all of a sudden she flips me the middle finger. And then after she flips me the middle finger, for those who just came on, then all of a sudden, as she saw, I'm digging in her grill right now, and I'm not letting it go. And so, all of a sudden now she pulls out her greatest weapon. And she didn't pull out a gun. She pulled out a cell phone. And that says, I have the privilege. Now, as a disclaimer, we're not saying all Caucasian women are Karens. We're not saying that at all. That's a stereotype. We're not saying that. But what I am saying is, being Black in America, we are threatened. We're Black, but we're threatened by Karen, because let's take that back. In Birth of a Nation, we are viewed as people of color, especially as Black men, as villains, that we are beasts, that we are sexual predators, that we are thugs, and we are everything except being a child of God. So somehow in this culture, they've been ingrained that we are beasts. And it goes all the way back to slavery, because in Carter G. Woodson's book, The Negro in America, they said that when African slaves was brought to America, it was believed that they couldn't be evangelized to because they didn't have any souls, and that they were beasts and they were brutes and animals and etc. And that same mindset that perpetuated back when during slavery time, that Carter G. Woodson documented in the book The Negro in America, is the same mindset that takes place in the 21st century. Question: have you ever had any confrontations or dealings or any craziness with Karens in your life?
I can go back over 20 years.
Wow.
Over 20 years ago, literally, I was at a Pizza Hut, and I was dealing with I had a situation happen with a young lady, and so and there was the Karen worked inside of Pizza Hut. I was outside in the parking lot,
right,
having a discussion with the young lady, and the conversation didn't go the best. And so they had just blacktopped their parking lot. And so in that, she had fallen. And so with that happening, Karen inside, who's a waitress, whose husband is a police officer, immediately called the police and told them that I hit her.
Wow.
3 police cars come. True story. It was on a Friday. 3 police officers, 3 cars show up. They asked me to get out of my car, and the officer says, "Well, we're looking for a indent on your hood." I said, "An indent on my hood? If we got a phone call that you hit a young lady." I said, "That's not true." I said, "She fell." I said that I was pulling away. She had walked and she had fallen, but no. Well, they had put me in handcuffs, literally. And there were 2 blessings. The first blessing was there was a police officer who I had known who was actually off that day. She was running, doing her exercises, calisthenics. She was running in the neighborhood. And she says, "What's going on?" And I told her what happened. Now, mind you, I'm up against the car.
Right.
Handcuffs. Everybody in Pizza Hut looking my way because this is what the phone call when he's going to leave my car. In doing so, the police officer says, "Well, I know him. He's a good kid." She says, "Whatever they're saying, there's got to be a reason." But now let me give you the counterpart. Okay? So here, there's a Caucasian male who was inside, who had came outside with his 4-year-old daughter who was fussing. And in doing so, he actually stepped up and told the truth and said he didn't do anything. Now, the catch is, if that white man had never came forward, now mind you, over an hour has passed, for the record. If he never said nothing, I'd have been going to jail.
Wow.
You got me?
Yeah.
There's no indentation in my hood. There's nothing at all that shows that what she stated actually happened. But because she feels my husband is a police officer and you had to do what you did because that's all I can see, it did not matter what I told the police officers who were all Caucasian. I'm a 19, 20-year-old male fighting for my life.
Wow. If anyone would like if anyone would like to call in, 888-329-3306, 888-329-3306. We are on my first, ever since I've been involved with broadcasting, on my first conversation series, Being Black in America, Part 1. Being Black and Threatened by Karen. We get ready to go to a 1-minute station break. You listen to WWDB 860 AM as well as 1100 AM The Real in Atlanta, Georgia. You're also checking me out on Facebook Live. My guest is Reverend Richard White, Clareton, PA, and our conversation series, Being Black in America, Part 1, Being Black and Threatened by Karen. We're going to a 1-minute station break at this time.
Everybody, let's go. Welcome everyone to West High School Spring Fling.
All right, I've gone through all the tracks. Just move through the beats. Do your thing.
All right, everyone, let's hear it for West High's own Brooke Turner, a.k.a. DJ Hook.
Scratching at my first school dance takes confidence. So we're getting into college. I've got what it takes. Okay, I went to the practice sessions, I slept good, I feel good.
We will now begin the test. Please take out your pencils.
I got this.
We're all good at something. Maybe it's breakdancing or skateboarding or video games. Whatever you're good at, you have the skills to make it happen. And those same skills will help us get to college. Visit knowhowtogo.org to learn what you should be doing right now to prepare for college. Start taking the steps at knowhowtogo.org.
I've got what it takes. So do you.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation, and the Ad Council.
We're back on Conversation Unplugged on WWDB 860 AM as well as 1100 AM The Real in Atlanta, Georgia. Our guest is Pastor Richard White. We're on our first conversation series, Being Black in America, Part 1. Our subject for today is Being Black and Threatened by Karen. It's interesting. Thank you for being transparent. I can remember, Pastor White, it was many years ago. My son, I believe he was in the 8th grade when my wife is listening. So let me make that very clear. Our son, because I want to get read the riot act when I get home. So our son, we're blessed to have 3 children. Like, oh, you helped create, you brought the kid into the world. Yeah. Our son, Our son was playing AAU basketball, and we were in Connecticut. And I forget the father's name because the father and I, we were real cool. His son, Justin, played AAU basketball as well. And so, Justin's dad and I, they were living in South Jersey. His dad is originally from Paterson, New Jersey. And so we're just talking, minding our own business. We're laughing, we're joking. We're not even joking about the kids on the basketball court. We're just having, because he and I, all of us vibe well, you know what I mean? But Justin, dad, we were vibing and we were talking. And then Karen came into the conversation out of nowhere. And check this out. She says, "Oh, you shut up." And then Justin's dad and myself, no, she didn't say, let me backtrack. She says, "Oh, you hush your mouth." She didn't say shut up. She says, "Oh, you hush your mouth." And we were like, you talking to us? And she was like, "Yes, oh, you hush your mouth." And we're like, yo, where's this coming from? What are you talking about here? She tried to accuse us of saying something about the kids on the basketball court. We didn't even say anything. We just kicking it, talking among ourselves. And then the next thing come out of Karen's mouth is, "Oh, I could tell y'all don't have no class." That's what came out of her mouth. So then there's a back and forth now. There's a back and forth. And so I'm saying in my head now, I know I'm anointed. I know I'm a pastor and everything. I says, but I have to hit verbally this sister so hard that she won't even think about coming back at me again, And so as she's going the back and forth, I literally stopped in the midst of the argument. And I looked at Karen, I said, "I don't even know why I'm arguing with you. I got a doctorate's degree." And I turned my back on her. Yo, man, she turned red. You got me? She turned red. But now I'm like, okay, I don't know who Karen's with. And I don't know who has Karen called. And so now throughout the game, Justin's dad and I, it's not like we're on edge, but we're waiting because see, in our experience, right? You can be accused. Exactly. You can be accused, but you better not defend yourself. Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
You are supposed to take your lashings, and I use that word lashings. Excuse me, not just physically, but like the person who had recently said verbally, you're supposed to grit your teeth and bear it.
Right.
You're literally supposed to just allow, because the mindset is we are supposed to just sit there as African Americans and take it and not talk back and not say a thing, not defend ourselves, not stand up for yourself because we don't have the right to.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the quote unquote America that we live in. That when we say one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, and that's a lie.
Right. You're absolutely correct on that one.
Because we're literally, I hate to say this, I can't tell a difference between 2021 and 1951.
Right.
When you look at what's going on now and what happened then, what difference? I don't see a difference. still causing these problems, that is still causing division within not only just because between us and white folks, but that these things are causing divisions even in our own families.
Yeah.
That's all what it is. Because you go home with this.
Mm-hmm.
A black man is still, no matter how educated, no matter how well you make it, you still have to go home to your wife and to your children and still be able to express, this is what I went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
this is my experience.
And I'm glad you shared that, Pastor White, because I walked through the door, right? I walked through the door, and my oldest, who's back at home with us, my oldest college-educated graduate, graduated from Clark Atlanta University, certificate from SAE, doing great work, trying to break into the music industry. Got to give a shout out. The song that you hear, the intro of the song, that's my daughter. She wrote, produced, and she sang it. And so she sees my facial expression. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because you said it. We bring it home. And we are taught as men, we got to mask it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Even when we come home, we got to mask it. We can't be who we are. We can't show it. Or what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect our family from the craziness, what we just went through. And then my daughter saw it. And I'll be very candid with you. She's anointed. She, is a child of God. She loves Jesus. But in some very simplified language, basically she said, Karen better be lucky I wasn't in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what and I'm not advocating violence. I'm going to be very candid with you. Karen better be glad I wasn't in the car, because, see, people, it's crazy how you can dehumanize, put up your middle finger, indirectly call me the N-word, and then after you create the mess, now you want to get your cell phone.
Dr. Weather, let me say this best to you. When I say that I don't see a difference between 2021 and 1960. When I say it, because there's one reason. Our African American men who work jobs went through so much on a job with their white counterparts, and whether they were in mills or whether they worked construction or whatever they worked, they went through those things and had to bring that home to a wife who did days work. And we never know, because I think there are so many stories that are never told from a generation of people women who did domestic work in white people's houses, and women who were pressed upon and pressed up by white men who owned the home when their wives weren't home, or who had passes made at them and couldn't say a thing for fear of being blackballed and not working when you have a husband and you have children at home that are dependent on you to be able to go to Miss Sally's house, clean her house, cook for her, and bring the money home. So we need our home. We are living in days where literally we are so much, and we're supposed to just not say a thing. And like you stated, then when we say something, we are the culprit. We're the one, and let's call it what it is. Look at the brother. Thank God your daughter was not with you.
Yeah.
Because if your daughter was with you, whatever it takes me back to, I think it happened maybe last year, the year before last. There was a young lady who they were able to tape, but she was arrested by the police. Not Sandra Bland. This lady's alive and okay, but she was arrested in front of her children, pulled out of her car. She and her mother. It was over, I want to say maybe over Midwest.
Right.
And arrested in front of their children. Because that's what would have happened. You run the risk of being beaten.
Yep.
Just like in 1961. And if you don't, and the bad thing about it is, although Karen's being taped, nothing's happening. So it almost takes you back to say, what's the use?
Yeah.
Even if you tape it and nothing's happened, the only thing you can do is do the best you can do, deal with and let me one step real quick. As a preacher of the gospel, they don't care.
No.
Because you're supposed to turn the other cheek and not say a thing.
Ain't not saying, I got to mess with, ain't nothing in the Bible saying turn the other cheek when you get the middle finger.
You know I know it. you know I know it.
They said
but that's how that's the perception, because we should be glad that we're allowed to go as far as we can go in life. We should be glad that we can live where we live because of Thane Lou Hammer. We should, I mean, there are so many things that we're looked upon by our counterpart that we should be glad about.
Yeah.
Because we marched and we marched and now we're allowed to live in various places and we're able to do what we do. So now we should say, oh, okay, and tip our hat and say, thank you, Master. Well, no, we work for this. I don't know if anybody else worked hard, come through hills and mountains to be able to ascertain what you ascertain. But yet, when you're in the crowd of your counterpart, you're still looked upon as less than.
And I definitely need to add this. You know, you said, thank God that my daughter wasn't in the car.
Yeah.
Thank God my youngest is in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that very, not that they're violent. I'm gonna tell you right now. Thank God that the youngest was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'll just stop there.
And others, and they use that. Now they'll use that. They'll use the fact that if your daughter was there, experienced it as a woman, and reacted to it, and that's why they'll call us a savage beast with no couth and no self control. That look at them acting like that. I put my pants on the same way somebody else does.
Right.
And disrespect is disrespect.
You're absolutely correct. See, there's a difference between disagreeing and humiliation. And I want to talk to wives, you know, married to their husbands and everything. I just want to say this from a male perspective, and let me say this off for the record. I don't have this problem at home, okay? But being a pastor, and I've seen stuff with colleagues and things like that. One of the worst things you can do and this is for a male to his wife, but I just want to speak from a woman to a man. One of the worst things you can do is attempt to humiliate the man that you're talking to or the man you're in relationship with, because that is the lowest of low that a black man has to encounter. We're constantly humiliated by, you know, the oppressive society. So we got to deal with humiliation within the oppressive institutional structures or the oppressive nature that you face at your workplace, and then to be in relationship with someone who takes on the slave master's tactics and says, I got to humiliate you to make you feel less than a man, and then tell your kids that your daddy is less than a man. That is really that is God. I can't get the word out.
that was the mainstay to 1960s in breaking up the black family.
Yeah.
If you can't, as a black male, and I share those same sentiments with you. Pastoring is not easy, not for the faint of heart.
No.
Because we deal with so much. But when you see families in turmoil solely because of, and I don't mean no harm, I'm not chauvinistic, I love women, got a wife, love her to death. But the truth be told is this: if an African American male cannot go home and find peace at home, then it literally becomes the Bible verse in Proverbs that says it is better for a man to live on the rooftop in the corner of the house than to stay inside the house with a quarrelsome wife. Most women don't realize that a man's biggest tutor is their wife. And when you go home after dealing with pressures of life in this world, whether it's from church, whether it's from your job, or whether from any other civic organization, when you go home and you are demasculized by your wife,
right?
You sit back and say, "What's the use?"
Right.
And that's why so many men walk away. And the reality is this: it's called what it is. When you went through that last Saturday, there's nothing your wife could do except for when you come home to actively listen to your experience and be able to literally say, "Baby, it's going to be okay, and we're going to get through it." And you got to keep on pushing.
And I'll be candid with you. She literally says, Wayne, you cannot allow demons operating in flesh to knock you off course for what God has in store for you.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. And I need to say, yeah.
She said the right thing. She did.
Yeah.
But when you're in that moment,
right,
and you're like, I did nothing to even deserve this.
right, yeah. And I'll say this and go to station break. You're right. Every husband should be able to come home and have peace. And the only time when I come home, I don't have peace is when the Ravens win and the Eagles lose, or when the Ravens beat the Eagles, because my wife is from Baltimore, Maryland. On that note, we're gonna take a station break. I might not be able to come home now, but we're gonna take a station break on Conversation Unplugged on WWDB 860 AM and 1100 AM Atlanta, Georgia. Station break.
What is hope? Hope to me was just that he would get to come home. I had no idea how hard it would be once he got back.
I wish she'd stop drinking so much. She thinks it's helping, but it's not. I hope she sees that soon.
I act like I don't care if he comes to my games, but I hope he does.
I used to hope he'd find happiness again. Now I hope our marriage makes it.
I hope Grandpa will get help. He thinks it's too late, but it's not.
With everything that he's going through, I hope he sees a counselor. I just want my brother back.
I hoped he'd get help. Stop hoping things would get better on their own. He told me to stop asking. I didn't. Then one day he asked for a ride.
Hope is knowing there are other families just like yours, that the veterans they love got help and recovered. Go to maketheconnection.net and turn hope into action.
We're back on WWDB 860 AM as well as 1100 AM Atlanta, Georgia, with our guest, Pastor Richard White. We're on our conversation series, part 1, called Being Black in America, and our subject today, Being Black Threatened by Karen. This conversation will continue at 5 p.m. on www.spiritualconnectradio.com. I'm returning back to spiritualconnectradio.com at 5 p.m. Our guest will be my college buddy from North Philadelphia who pastors in Greenville, South Carolina, Darren Johnson. We're starting, another conversation series called Challenges in Ministry. And our subject that we'll be unplugging today is entitled In Ministry and Alone. So now, going back, dealing with the loneliness in ministry. How can we relate this to the African-American experience? Because I don't want to spend like the next, let's say, 5 minutes, no more than 8 minutes. Well, 5 minutes, that is, making it come across like this is a gripe session against Karen. And this is what being Black in America is about, just griping about the Karens. How can we, as African-American men, because I am going to have a particular, not series, but subject to discuss the African-Americans women experience in America, being Black and being female. You have the two, you got the two obstacles that are against you, your skin color and your gender. And we're going to have to spend a couple of weeks and maybe more than a couple of weeks talking about that. I need to go back because I missed some comments. Dr. Sherry Jones says legislation doesn't change mindsets, nor does it change racist systems that the evil mindsets have built. We just have laws. And then she said, no, we need just laws. I'm sorry. She says we need just laws. And Claire Cookie Jennings, hey, she gave a shout out, and so did Minister Nafis Singleton of People's Baptist Church, who was our guest last week. How do we move forward? We can spend all day talking about what's not right with the Karens. How do we move forward in the midst of the Karens as African Americans? Because it's not only African Americans that get threatened by Karens, it's African American females also. So how do we move forward when we are threatened by Karens?
Still be on our guard, to be brutally honest. And when I say on our guard, literally, how I carry myself, how I dress, my look, my demeanor should never change. I am exactly who God created me to be. I think that we have to have dialogue. When I say dialogue, we have to be intentional about having courageous conversations. And so when I say that, it might not be pleasant for someone to hear, but to be able to say, listen, it might sound juvenile to an extent. You offended me. This is how you offended me. This is my experience. And let's talk this out and hash this out to be able to change the mindset. It won't happen overnight because the problems that we deal with is this: racism and gender, white and not white, but male and female inequality in our skin tone. Literally is a behavior that is taught. But I think that when it happens, we have to be able to look at the experience and take it for a win.
Mm-hmm.
And that win is to be able to educate that person, even in their offense toward us, no matter how sharp it is to be able to take control of that moment and have that courageous conversation. If they want to hear us or not to end, that's their loss, but it will never be said that we did not try to bridge the gap so that by the time we finish that conversation, we're on an even plane and somebody learned something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can't allow the Karens to stop us from being who God made us to be.
Absolutely.
And we can't be fearful that Karen is going to have her cell phone. Matter of fact, we have to be even more bold and let's get real. Don't fall into Karen's trap, because Karen wants you to verbally attack. Karen wants to draw you in so that you can physically attack, because Karen wants to shed the tears and act like she's the victim, like I didn't do anything, when that's just a demonic, deceptive spirit to draw somebody out of the will of God and to draw them into the trap so that you can never be who God called you to be. You will find yourself in chains and locked up behind a jail cell, all because Karen, with an unclean spirit, a supremacy spirit, decided to come at you because of the color of your skin.
When we react in the wrong way. So what happens is this: as a child of God, especially, our testimony becomes tainted, and our witness loses the authenticity of it, because people then look at us and put our salvation or deliverance that becomes on trial in our jury. So I think that for the child of God, we have to always look at it, not cautiously, but look at it from the aspect of how can we win this brother or this sister for the cause of Christ. Because no matter what wilderness experience that we go through, because our Karen experiences, and we're seeing the length, our Karen experiences is nothing different than Christ being tempted by Satan in the wilderness. We got to always be able to be as wise as a serpent, as harmless as a dove. Take control of the conversation and make it happen.
The Minister Nafi Singleton of People's Baptist Church, and he also served as the president of our laymen's in the Pennsylvania Eastern Keystone Baptist Association, commented on Facebook and said the following: "We need stiffer laws and hold those accountable for the false use of the police," and I would say falsely filing a police report. You're absolutely, I'm in total agreement.
True, but let's call it. But let me just add one thing. And I'm not being negative. I just want to be good about this thing. You can have every law in the book. When this is ingrained in the mindset. So for Karen and for Steve, who I call them, the rules don't apply to them. Because for them, they are above the law. That's why Karens are able to name drop, and if it makes us some difference. That's why Karens are able to look at us as though we're less than a piece of property or a slave or an animal, because the mindset is you are better than them, classified different to them, and they offer you nothing in life because of what they are. They are black, and they are this, and they are that. And when we're always being compared to and likened as an animal, the rules don't apply. So we can I'm all for change the laws, change the statutes, but until we have these conversations to change the mindset, we won't see the behaviors change at all.
So I'm going to close out with the following. Pastor White, thank you for coming on. We're definitely going to have you back on, and I definitely got to have you on the other radio show I have on www.spiritualconnectradio.com. That's where Conversation Unplugged got started. We got to walk with our heads up, even with the Karens out there. We got to be determined that you can have your cell phone, you can flip the middle finger and you can call us the N word, but there's one thing you won't take away from us, and that's dignity. You can't stand to see us thrive. You can't stand to see us achieve. You can't stand to see us get ahead. And so, Karen, our Black experience in America allows us to understand that when we got obstacles, we overcome it. When bridges are broken, we build it. When fires destroy a house, we put up another. And whatever door is not open, we come through the window, or we create our own doors and walk through it so you can have the door by yourself. So, Reverend Richard White, we're getting ready to go. We're going to unplug now. Conversation Unplugged, so we can plug back in on Thursday of next week if God put breath in our bodies and put movement in our limbs. But this is Reverend Dr. Wayne M. Weathers from Conversation Unplugged. Thank you for joining us as we started out our first conversation series, Being Black in America, Part 1, Being Black and Threatened by Karen. Join us next week as we deal with Being Black in America, Part 2. Subject will be announced next week. Thank you, Pastor White, man. Thank you, man. God bless you, my brother.
You as well, man. God bless. Have a great day.
All right, you take care. God bless. And thank you
sir.
for tuning in to Conversation Unplugged. Take care.
I'm not everybody is talking about us. Living in a winning, there's some crazy stuff happening. We need resolution. We have the power, we need restitution. First, we need to talk about how to begin. We're on this again, feel free to join in. This is Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. Conversation Unplugged. This is Conversation